What's up, fam? We back at it again. Today we're going to be working on the Audi. I know it's been a cool minute since I talked about the Audi, but I'm bringing the Audi today. It's been running rough. That's why I haven't been using it, and that's why it hasn't been on the channel. It's actually running like it's missing a cylinder or two, so we're going to check it out now. Let me fire it up for you real quick so you can hear what it sounds like. See, it's hard to start. We get a drivetrain malfunction on the dash, and then it's got a rough idle and it doesn't accelerate well without missing. So it's missing on at least one or two cylinders, so we're going to look into that now. Let's take a look at it from the outside. You can see it's kind of shaking. So yeah, rough idle. Sounds like it's either missing on one or two cylinders. So I'm going to start with taking out the spark plugs and reading the spark plugs and going from there. Let me shut this down. Now we'll get these spark plugs out, see what they look like. It may be something as simple as a coil pack, but hopefully there's nothing wrong internally and it's not catastrophic damages. I don't want to have to put an engine in here. I have to rebuild this engine, but we'll run a compression test if we need to. But for now, we'll just start by pulling out the spark plugs, see what they look like. Take a look at the coil packs, make sure they're not oil saturated or anything like that. So let me jump to it. I'm going to get some tools and then start taking out the spark plugs. Should be pretty quick. Alright, I'm going to bring y'all in real quick just to show y'all how it comes apart. You have some screws here that go in to your valve cover. You want to take those out. There's going to be 4 of them, 2 on each side. Then over here, it's a little hard to see in the lighting, but yeah, you have some screws here. But I already took those out. But to get the coil packs out, what you do is I'm going to show you on this side because it's more light. But you push these clips here with your screwdriver and you pop them down. And all 3 of them just pop down at the same time once you pop the clips out the back again of the harness here. I just want to show you guys that real quick, so let me get back to it. I'm gonna pop these coils out and then see what the spark plugs look like. I'll get back with you guys in just a minute. All right, fam, so it's the next day. We're back working on the Audi. We did pull out the spark plugs as you saw in the video and the coil packs. Everything has been labeled with the corresponding cylinder that it came out of, so we could keep record of that. But now what we're going to do is run a compression test. What we're trying to do is check the compression on each individual cylinder. If we find a low compression on any of the cylinders, that's going to indicate internal damage into the engine, either a bad ring, a bad valve, something to that effect, maybe even a cracked head. But we're going to go ahead and run this compression test. Hopefully we'll cross our fingers and the compression levels are all good across the board, but we'll see what the data says. If it is good across the board with high enough compression on every cylinder, I'm going to go ahead and throw the new plugs in and the old coil packs back on and drive it, and that'll let me know if the problem's solved with the spark plugs. Maybe there was just a fouled spark plugs, but we'll take it from there. If it still misses with the new plugs and the compression checks out fine, then I'm going to lean towards it being a coil pack, and we'll start diagnosing which coil pack it might be. But for now, let me go ahead and get the camera set up here on the Audi, and then we'll go ahead and start running the compression test. So let me jump to that. What I want to do is go ahead and check the thread pitch. So what you do is you'll compare the threads by putting them interlocked here with the spark plugs. So the thread should be exactly the same and therefore no air gap in between each thread. So they should interlock perfectly there like ours does. So we're going to go ahead and use this adapter. Also make sure the depth is around the same depth as the spark plug threads. This one's going to work for us. Also note, you want to go ahead and get something ready so you can write down your results. You use a piece of paper. In our case, we're going ahead and use our whiteboard. So we're going to put down each reading with the corresponding cylinder, so that way we can read our results. So let me jump back to putting this adapter in and running the compression test on each cylinder. So I'm going to jump to that now. All right, so now that we got the gauge hooked up outside under the hood, we're going to go ahead and try to start it. It's not going to start obviously because there's no spark plugs, but we want to crank on it a few times, maybe 4 revolutions more or less, and then get a good compression reading, and then record that and move on to the next cylinder. So let me go ahead and crank it. All right, so we cranked it out about 5 times there. Let's go see what our reading is. Does not look good. It is 110 psi more or less. So you can see that there, about 110 psi. That's not good. In fact, I'm going to do it again for a sanity check, because that's not a good reading. All right, let's go check it again. Hopefully it's higher than 110. And it's consistent, about 112 now. That's not good. All right, so we're gonna release the air, write that down, and go ahead and check the other cylinders. 5 other cylinders. I'm just gonna do it real quick. I'm not gonna stop on each one, and then we'll come back and look at the results. So let me jump to that. All right, fam, so we went ahead and did the compression test. Let's take a look at our results. I was concerned about the 110 that I got initially. Turns out that's normal, because across the board it's about 112, 110 to 115 actually. So let's take a look at the results. Unfortunately, one of them did not make it to 110. In fact, it had 0 compression. So yeah, I'm not going to sugarcoat that. That sucks. So we definitely have something going on in cylinder 5. 0 compression to me is more like a broken ring or a burnt valve. So not a head gasket. So I would expect to have some compression or low compression if it was a head gasket. But it seems that there's a hole in the piston, a broken ring, or I don't know, just a melted valve. But it's definitely not building any compression whatsoever. So there is tons of blow by if you're only getting 0 on your gauge when running the compression test. And I did it like 5 times on that cylinder, unscrewed it, screwed it back in just to make sure I wasn't crazy. But definitely no compression on cylinder 5. So I'm super bummed about that. So it is what it is. We're gonna jump back on it now before we run out of too much light. I'm gonna get you guys set back up on a tripod here. But real quick, we got the valve cover loose. I think there's a couple of bolts that needed to be loosened up just a little bit more so I could get it out, and there's probably a few things kind of in the way, but I'm gonna try to fish this out of here, and then we'll start working on trying to get the head out. It looks like we may have to take out the fuel rail, and then obviously there's going to be some kind of timing chain here that's driving these overhead cams, and hopefully it comes out pretty easy. Hopefully there's enough space. I also have to take this manifold and supercharger off. So yeah, still got a lot to do. So let me jump to it before I run out of light. Put you guys on a tripod and try to get as much out as possible. I might even set up some lights so I can keep working throughout the night. so I got a spot cleared on the bench. Got this thing loosened up. I think it's gonna come out without any snags. It is stupid heavy though, for real. It's gotta be at least 50 pounds, which when you're trying to pull it off the studs, feels a lot heavier than 50 pounds because it's getting wedged up against the studs too. So I got it sitting on top now. It should be fully loose. I'm just gonna carry it over. I disconnect all the vacuum lines back here, all the sensors on the side, the belt obviously, and the coolant hoses. So I got it up far enough. I'm pretty confident there's nothing else really hooked up to it. I got it about 4 inches up right now. And we're free. And we're gonna come back over here, take a look at what it looks like without the supercharger. All right, guys and gals, it's starting to get real here. We're getting into the engine itself. I can see a lot of oil buildup here on these runners. So oil is definitely making its way down and through the supercharger, which probably led to the intake valves or the exhaust valves getting gummed up and not sealing properly, causing it to blow one of the valves out. Probably just torched the valve. That's what I'm leaning to. So we're getting there, slowly but surely. We are getting closer to the root of the problem. Man, these do not look like fun cylinder heads to get off though, the more I dig into it. There's still a lot here. Honestly, don't even see the head bolts yet. There's some down, I'm sure, underneath the cam. There's usually some on the outside here. I don't see those yet. There's still quite a bit of more stuff to take out of the way. So let's keep chipping away at it. And the one that has me the most worried is anything to do with the timing. So timing chain, that sort of thing. I'm hoping there's no specialty tool to either lock the cam in position when you're disassembling it or anything like that. As much as I don't want it to be, it looks like it might be on the back because there's these steel pans here that almost look like oil pans, that like a stamped steel, and something makes me think that that's where the chain's going to be, only because it's pretty unusual to have a stamped steel pan on the back of your head, and it's on both heads. So I'm going to step out of my box here and say that's where the timing chain is in the back of the engine, which is weird AF. That's all I'm going to say. This thing's going to be stupid hard to make sure you have it, all the cams in time, if you're working from the back, because obviously you can't really see it when you're setting the chain. So yeah, that's going to suck. I can already tell you that. That is going to suck. All right, fam, it's the next day. As you can see, the sun is shining. It's a beautiful day. However, bad news. I stopped the video last night when I discovered the timing chain was actually at the rear of the engine block between the transmission and the engine. Whatever engineer thought that was a good idea, thanks. I laugh when I say that because obviously it's sarcasm. Horrible idea, Audi. Don't know why you did that. That's all I'm going to say. The 3.0T. That I did not know the timing chain was back there. Now that I discovered it, it gives me a whole new perspective on this particular engine setup. But enough of my ranting. What I did off camera last night is I lifted up the vehicle, crawled underneath to see what it'd take to get the transmission out of the way so I could work on the timing chain at the rear of the engine block from underneath. That seems impossible. Can't even see the transmission bolts at all. So that doesn't seem like it's going to be feasible. Also looked at seeing if I could get the engine out by itself and hoisting it out, but again, can't see the transmission bolt, so that's not an option either. With that being said, I'm gonna have to work on it in the vehicle. So I'm gonna jump back to working on the heads inside the vehicle. All right, fam, let me take you off the tripod real quick and show you where we're at. As you can see, we got both valve covers off now. Obviously, we got the supercharger out of the way. And more recently, as you saw from the video, we got the wiring harness pulled out of the way, all the way from the ECU, which I removed over there, to the coil packs, to the transmission, to everything, basically. The injectors. I have everything pulled over to this one side here, just kind of laid out of the way because we're trying to work here between the firewall and the engine block, because we got to access these timing chain covers here and here. And yes, I've spent all day removing wiring, hoses, vacuum lines, and brackets, and I still have not gotten the timing chain covers off. A whole day on this, honestly. It's ridiculous. And then I come to find out that the EGR, and I'm assuming that's EGR down there, that's what it looks like, as a vacuum line, and it has a crossover pipe that goes to the other head with another EGR, and it goes to the intake manifold. So I'm assuming that's EGR. I got to get that out of the way because you can see it's right in the way of getting this timing chain cover out. There's a bolt behind the EGR I can't reach. But catch 22, I can't get the EGR out because there's a heat shield. So I got to get the heat shield out first to reach the EGR bolts. But I can't get the heat shield out because there's a catalytic converter, of all things, right behind the EGR. And that's on both sides. You can see that one over there, and you can see this one over here. So yeah, I got to drop the cat, drop the heat shield, and drop the EGR. Just to get the timing chain covers off. Now, with that being said, I am not going to take the cover off on the passenger side because obviously I'm trying to get this done as easy and fast as possible, and there's nothing wrong with this side that I could tell of right now. So I just want to get the car running again. So I'm going to focus in on the problem child, which is the driver's side head. Which I think has a burnt valve in it. So I'm going to try to get the cat out on this side. I went ahead and sprayed the bolts with the penetrating oil, and I broke them loose, and so it's already unbolted. The downpipe's unbolted. I had to do the downpipe from underneath, and then the combination underneath and from the top to get to the cat bolts. So it's loose. I'm going to get back there and try to move it out of the way and then start working on that heat shield and that EGR on the driver's side. Let me see if I can wiggle it out of the way, get to that heat shield for the EGR, get the EGR off, and get the timing chain cover on the driver's side out before the sun sets fully. I don't think I'll make it, but I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to try to set you guys up where you can see, but I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see. But let me go ahead and see if I can't wiggle that cat out of the way. It looks like I have to pull the downpipe down out of the way further. All right, fam, so that was a pain getting to this cat, but I got the bolts out. Should be loose now. I had to get them from underneath and from the top, but now that it's loose, I'm going to climb up here and pull the cat out. As I said earlier, the cat is blocking this timing chain cover from coming off, and we need to get this cover off in order to get to the timing chain to get it off of the sprocket of the cams. That way it'll allow us to take the head off. Now, keep in mind, I don't think I'm going to take the passenger side head apart. I'm going to focus only on the driver's side because that's where our issue is. So I'm going to leave that cat in place and that timing chain cover also in place. Now, there's like a EGR or something back there too blocking this timing chain cover. So it is going to be a little more difficult to get to because it's not just a cat, but it's also this EGR valve. So I'm going to focus in on this side only. So let me go ahead and get you guys set up on a tripod so I can go ahead and get both hands around this cat and hopefully wiggle it out of the way. Whether it'll come all the way out from between the firewall and the engine block, I don't know until I get in there and try. I doubt that it'll come all the way out though. So I'm going to at least try to move it out of the way. So I'm going to get you guys on a tripod and I'll get to getting this cat out of the way and getting that timing chain cover off. All right, so we got the cover off. Now we can see the back of the cams and the timing chain itself. Well, we could sort of see it. Still don't have a very good view because of space constraints, basically. I just can't see, I can't see much here. Fortunately, it's just the wrong angle to really see anything that's going on back here. So I'm gonna have to figure out how to lock these cams in place once I find top dead center. On the end of the cams, there's definitely something here to control what looks like is a variable valve timing. So that's gonna also prevent us from seeing the back of the camshafts and the belt and tensioner because it's just in the way. Yeah, I can't see past these two things here. Might plan on zip tying this belt to the cam gear and leaving the cam gear in place. Does not look like it's going to be an option. Doesn't really have a sprocket with holes in it to zip tie the chain to keep everything clocked right and in time. So that sucks. Let me strategize how I'm going to get this chain off without losing my timing, because I do not want to have to retime all four cams, the crank, and whatever else is involved with this timing chain. Just so you know, there's like 4 timing chains back here, not just one. You can't see them all now, but I've done some research and there's a whole bunch of chains back here, that all have to stay timed right. Man, this really looks like something I should pull the whole engine, transmission, and everything out, because I don't see how I'm going to get this timing chain off and then back on without losing my timing. I'm going to put some marks on it and then lock everything down. I'll have to lock down the cam on that side and the crank, and mark these cams, mark the chain, and then put it all back together, and hopefully it stays in time. So I'm gonna have to spin this over and find top dead center. All right, fam, so real quick, let me show you where we're at. I had to put the screwdriver in this forward cylinder on the driver's side, rotated the crank until this screwdriver came to its highest position here. Now we're lining up with these bolt holes here on the cam where you install a cam lock. You can see that there, bolt hole, and a bolt hole over here. And here on the actual back of the cam, you can see there's a notch there, right there. Hopefully you can see that. And then right here's a flat spot on the head, so I'll go ahead and mark that in yellow. And then this cam over here, same thing. You can see a little notch right there. Hopefully you can see it. And then a flat spot, so I'll go ahead and mark that as well. And then the same thing over here, although I do not have the timing chain cover off, I'm going to assume the notches on the back of the timing chain are lining up, but we can see the cam lock bolt holes here are pointing straight up. So those are in a good position. I feel good about that. So I'll go ahead and install those cam locks now. And we got a kit here. It has two different kinds of cam locks, I'm assuming for different Audi engines. So I'm gonna figure out which one actually fits our case here. Try this one because there's more of an offset on mine. And then the bolts are different sizes. So this one has different size bolts. So we'll grab these two. And again, I don't know which one is for which side, but essentially we just put it on there and then bolt it into the cam. So I'm going to get these started by finger first, and then we'll just snug it down. We're not going to crank on these things too tight. All they're doing is locking the cams in position, that's all. So it won't take much there. And same thing on this side. Go ahead and install it here on the cam. Again, finger tight. And we'll just put a wrench on it and snug them up. So those are our cam locks right there and there. I'm going to go ahead again and mark out in yellow these notches on the back of the cam, just so we know where they're lined up when we go to put it back together. I actually might not even, I might do both. I might put a indentation with a punch here, and then hopefully I could get one down there as well to mark out where they're supposed to line up. So that way if I use any solvents, I don't have to worry about the paint wearing off. And then hopefully we can start tearing this head out of here. I'm going to take these cams or whatever these variable adjustment plates off of the back of the cams too. So hopefully I can get to the cam bolts a little better. But we'll see. Let me go ahead and tighten these up first of all with a wrench, and then I will mark this out. I'm gonna put you guys back down in here so you can see what's going on. All right, so hopefully you guys can see there. just want to give you guys a quick look at it here from the back of the head to see what we've done. I should have had the camera in this position to begin with, but my hands would probably be blocking you anyways. But needless to say, this is where we're at. We went ahead and pried this tensioner here back and then put this pin in place to hold the tensioner so that way the chain's loose. We went ahead and broke loose the bolts here on the back of each cam. As I said earlier, we went ahead and marked everything out already. So now we're going to slide these sprockets off the back of the cam and probably just take them out altogether, but leave the chain in place, obviously, because we can't get to the lower part of the chain. So we're just going to slide these back. They seem to come off pretty easily. I am going to mark which one's top, which one's bottom. Alright, so looks like that chain wants to fall back into the timing chain, I guess, case. So hopefully it doesn't fall too far in that we can't reach it. But we're going to have to leave it the way it is. And we're going to even have to remove this pin for this tensioner because it won't clear this portion of the head here that needs to come out. Alright, so we got that all apart back here. I think we're good. We're going to have to take the cam out now. So let's look at the cams. Alright, so we're taking a look at the cams here. We're going to take them out. It looks like these caps on the cams are all part of this one big girdle. All of them are one piece. So I think all these bolts have to come out all the way around, and then it looks like the cam and everything is going to come out with this top girdle plate. So let me go ahead and buzz all those out and see if I can't take the cams out all together with the caps and this whole girdle. I got it, but boy, I was a little worried that there was a bolt still in it because it was not coming off very easily. All right, let's see if we can get it out of the way. All right, so there you go. Both cams stayed in place. The cam lock is holding them. It just comes out as one assembly. So I'm going to set this aside and continue to work on getting the head itself off. Be very careful not to drop these two bolts back here down into the timing chain area, because then everything will have to come apart in order to retrieve them. But yeah, there's a little passage where the timing chain goes in between the head and the transmission. Do not drop these bolts back there when you pull them out. Otherwise you're going to be having a bad day. So we got the cylinder head off. I'm going to go ahead and blow this coolant out of the cylinder so it doesn't rust out my cylinder or leak down into the pan. And then we'll go ahead and go to the bench and take a look at our cylinder head to see what failed. All right, fam, so we got the cylinder off. It's on our bench. We're going to take a look at the failure, but before we do that, I got to pull these rocker arms out before they fall out of position. So I went ahead and made a pegboard basically to put the rockers on so I know what position they came in. And I just kind of roughly drew out the shape of the cylinder head, marked what part is front. You can see the spark plug holes here, so that way when I pull each rocker out, I could just put it in the corresponding hole here. So that way I know exactly where they go when I reassemble it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick. And then we'll flip this over and take a look at the bottom of the head and see what's going on. Alright, so as you can see, we got them all here on our board. So that way we know where they go when we reassemble and we have no confusion of where they came out. So we'll set that aside and then we're going to flip this head over and take a look at what's going on in cylinder 5. Alright, so the first thing you will notice is this is a different coloration than these two cylinders here. This is our problem cylinder. You can see a lot of carbon on this. This one looks like it's been washed. So yeah, there's some raw fuel or something going on in this cylinder. And if you take a closer look, you could see there's actually a burnt out valve. So I'm going to bring you guys in a little closer here so you can see it. All right. So hopefully you can see there that there's a burnt valve. Let me grab something to poke at it. But you can see here that it goes straight through. It's not a continuous valve. There's a burnt out section here. So what happens is, as you can see all this carbon that's built up on the valve here. So what happens is that carbon gets built up on the seat of the valve, and so the valve doesn't seat properly, and during the ignition of the fuel, it actually burns out and slowly torches out that valve because it's not fully seated and there's a little air gap. And with that air gap, it basically blow torches out that valve. Pretty common in a direct injection engine. So the injectors are right here inside the cylinder. And so what's happening is the carbon's not being washed out by the fuel injectors, as in an engine that has the fuel injectors in the plenum, washing out the intake and down through the top of the valves, washing out the valve seats to keep that carbon from building up. Instead, the fuel is being injected directly into the cylinder, so the top of the valves and the valve seat do not get washed by the fuel coming into the cylinder. So that's pretty much what's going on there. We're going to go ahead and start taking the valve out of this head and lapping it and replacing it. So let me jump to that. Got you guys on the tripod. I'm going to knock this out real quick and then start reassembling the head onto the engine. Alright fam, so I had to break from the garage and now I'm cut to driving to Sacramento to go get a head, because what happened off camera is I looked at the valve seat and the seat is completely trashed. It's melted just like the valve, so I'm gonna have to get a new head. Now there's an Audi recycler in Rancho Cordova, So I'm headed up towards Sacramento now in order to go get this head. Now they close in about 2 hours, and I'm about 2 hours away, so I'm gonna make it there pretty much just in time, hopefully. I talked to the dude, he's real cool, and he'll stay open a little late for me if he needs to. We'll figure it out, but I'm gonna get the head tonight. I just wanted to put my hands on it because I found it somewhat locally, so I'm headed up there now to pick it up. So let me go swoop up this head. I'll get back on this drive and come back to you guys in a little bit. All right, so we made it here to Rancho Cordova. We're picking up the part here from Dismantler. Let's see, I'll show you guys the name of the company. But it's CPS Car Part Solution. They have a lot of the European stuff. They sell Mercedes, Audi, BMW, Land Rover, Volkswagen, and Porsche parts. So we swooped up the cylinder head. I went ahead and just sent him a Zelle, and he left it here for me. So we're gonna load this thing up and then start driving back to the Bay Area. All right, so we got it loaded up back here in the back of the Jeep. We're gonna go ahead and grab us something to eat before we hit the road, because it's gonna be a 2-hour drive just to get back to the Bay. All right, fam, we're back in the shop. As you saw, we had to go pick up this head in Sacramento, actually Rancho Cordova, from the Audi recycler. So the reason why we had to pick that up real quick is because this head was garbage. So let me bring you in here. Hopefully you could see the valve seat is completely melted right here and right along here, this edge here. So hopefully that gets picked up on camera. But yeah, it's basically toasted here and here. But we're not going to worry about sending this out to the machine shop. That's why we ran and got this other head real quick. So now we got to transfer all the stuff from the old head, the fuel injection rail, the valve timing adjust, and then it looks like an EGR pipe on that side. And then we have the chain guide right here that we all need to transfer over to this new head. So let me go ahead and jump to that right now. I'll put you guys on tripod and I'm gonna knock this out. All right, so we have our new head here. I'm gonna unwrap it. They packaged it up pretty well. And they had it in a little foam cooler too, so yeah, it was nicely packaged. So now I'm going to start transferring everything from this head to this one. It's nice to see here though that it comes with both cams. We got our rockers, our springs, and our valves already installed. Yeah, so hopefully have all the gaskets we need. But we're going to go ahead and start transferring everything from the old head over to the new head. All right, fam, so we got the head all put together here. We got everything transferred from the old head right there to the new donor head, including the fuel rail. We have the timing chain tensioner. We have a crossover pipe here for our coolant, as well as a EGR pipe here mounted to the back of the head. We have these three diffusers here in the intake, which we pulled also out of the old head, cleaned them up, and reinstalled them here in this new head. So don't forget to put these diffusers here in the intake runners. Now you may notice The cams and the cam cradle are not in yet, and the reason being is you have to access these head bolts here in order to torque the head down to the engine. So let me go ahead and jump to that now. We're going to jump underneath the hood of the Audi and start putting this head gasket and this head in. All right, fam, we got the surface prep for the new head gasket, so we're going to go ahead and put the head gasket in now and then put the head on and torque it down. Once we get the head torqued down, I'll feel pretty good about it. It's still going to be very difficult to put everything else together. There's just a lot of connectors, a lot of hoses, tons of wiring harness, and this cat's hard to get to, as well as the EGR valves on the back of the head. So there's still a lot of work to do, but I'll feel like I'm making some progress once I get this head on. So let me go ahead and jump to that, get the head gasket put down, torque the head. Again, we're just going to go to some high speed or some time-lapse footage, so that way I could get this job done. I'm not going to do a lot of talking, as I said before, just a lot of work. So let me get to it. All right, fam, real quick, I'm gonna jump in here and show you something real quick, a little quick tip on these intake runners. They do have dampers that open and close by vacuum here. So you wanna make sure that these runners, or I should say these dampers, are depressed slightly when you're putting this runner on, so that the flap here on this damper is on the correct side of the diffusers that are in the head, or the intake port of the head here. There's a little sheet metal diffusers that we put in there. We want to make sure that this runner has the dampers on the correct side of that. Otherwise, it's going to be behind the butterfly, and it's going to prevent it from opening up when actuated by vacuum. And that will trigger a check engine light for intake runners not opening. You want to push the damper open. Make sure you're on the back side of that, so that way it doesn't trap it closed. On this side, it's on the wrong side, so we're going to go ahead and flip that around and get that fixed before we put the supercharger back on and fire it up. Well, all right, fam, it's the next day, and I'm super pumped that the Audi is finally running again. I got it all fixed. Now, I did get it completed about 2 a.m. in the morning, so I stopped recording towards the end of the video. It was already getting to be a long video as it is, so I just went ahead and knocked it out and went to bed. But now we're gonna be able to start the Audi and test drive it. So I wanna take you guys along for that. I'm also very happy to have the Audi back for commuting because I got tired of driving the Jeep every day to work. As you know, a Jeep's really not that great of a commuter car. The Audi is a lot more comfortable. So let's go ahead and jump in here and see how it starts up. All right, starts up nice and easily. No lights on the dash. We'll go ahead and take a look on the outside real quick. It's running, not missing anymore. Seems like it's solved. We're gonna take it on a nice test drive real quick here and see how it pulls down the road. So let's take it on this quick test drive so I can end this video. All right, drives nice and smooth, it idles smooth. Let's just take it around the block real quick. Oh, I missed that supercharger sound. Yeah, it pulls good. I'm not flooring it or anything like that, but it is driving nice and smooth. So obviously the miss is gone, the valve's repaired, and I'm gonna call this a success. All right, fam, as you can see from the test drive, the Audi runs perfect. No sounds or weird noises coming from the engine bay. We have no check engine lights, no warning lights on the dash, and it accelerates just perfect. It doesn't hesitate. It doesn't have any weird shakes or anything like that. So we're gonna call this a done deal. Now, I know it was a long video, so I want to take this time to appreciate everybody that has watched, especially if you watched all the way to the end. And if you skipped through the video and just got to this part of the video, I want to thank you guys too just for tapping into the channel and checking it out. Now, if you like what you saw today, go ahead and smash that like button because I do drop bangers all the time. We have a lot of project cars. If you're new to the channel, we got the Skylark, we got the 33 Ford over there with a bunch of debris on it I got to clean up and organize. And we have the Camaro here, which is going to be the next video that comes out. We did some work on the Camaro and fabricated a hood latch release. I just want to take this time. Thank you guys for watching. Again, if you like what you saw there, go ahead and smash that like button. And if you haven't already, go ahead and tap into the channel, hit that post notification bell to be notified of my next episode, because I do drop bangers all the time. Until next time, stay good, family. Peace.